Hello everybody, it's Daniel here, bringing you something a little bit different tonight. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire come out in 5 days, in case you didn't notice, and there's a bunch of new Mega Evolutions being added to the game. So I thought I'd spend just a minute on each of these, and give my thoughts, and kind of like speculations, and a bit of commentary on them as well. No more than a minute, because it's actually very late here, and a bit short on time. It's probably best for the format as well, considering we've got a lot of these to get through, and it'll keep me to just the most important points about each of these. So, we're gonna dive right in. I got them listed alphabetically. First minute, let's go. Altaria. This is pretty interesting. Its stats are kind of all around, and I can see this definitely being used as a support Pokemon. The reason being is that it doesn't really excel in any particular stat, and it doesn't really strike me as an offensively based one. And but then it's still got some good options, and its defenses mean that it can survive quite a few hits. Its unique typing as well lends itself well to dealing with dragon types. The main problem with this is sending it in as a regular Altaria, because it's not particularly great then. You have to wait till it Mega Evolves till it gains any real advantage. Notable moves for it, considering it has Pixelate, is Hyper Voice, and I guess if you wanted to joke around, you do have... where did Hyper Beam go? Yeah, you do have Hyper Beam, in case you want to go for a bit of a joke move. You also got Heal Bell, which is kind of nice. You've got Cotton Guard, which this can actually use, considering its decent defenses. You've got Ice Beam as well. The main problem is going to be that it needs to Mega Evolve first. Regular Altaria isn't great, but Mega is alright, so it's pretty good. Audino next, and this is one I actually underestimated the first time I saw it. I didn't really think there was a use for it, but looking at it again, I'm willing to give this one a shot. This is a pretty good one. Now, its ability isn't particularly great for Smogon, for Smogon singles, but it does have very respectable defenses, and a noticeable move that it does have, which I forgot to add here, is Calm Mind. So this is actually a very good user of Calm Mind. The reason being is it has a lot of options for it. It has all of the elemental beams, and I believe it has Dazzling Gleam. Yes, it doesn't actually have Moon Blast, which is a bit of a shame, bit of a missed potential there. But it means that it can run a very kind of bulky offensive set here, and it has decent support moves as well that it can actually just help your team. You can also run Rester if you want, or you can set up screens with it. You have quite a few options with it, and yeah, it's actually pretty good. Do I see it being used? Like, yeah, probably. More than likely in doubles, I'd say, but it's still pretty good in its own right, and it's one that I really did undervalue when I first saw it. But it's pretty good for its defenses, and it's fairly decent move pool. On to the next one, Mega Beedrill. Oh man, I don't think any of us saw this one coming, but it is pretty fantastic. I like to refer to this as Lucario 2.0 because it has adaptability and just some very strong hitting moves. So if we look at Mega Beedrill's stats, it has Sky High Attack, Sky High Speed, that's all we particularly care about here. And it's also got Sword Stance on top of that, which means that, yeah, it's very similar to the Mega Lucario. You can see why I kind of just said that. And its noticeable moves for it is Poison Jab and X Scissor. You can also run U-Turn on it, which is just hits ridiculously strong. And the nice thing for Beedrill is that it does get Brick Break, which you're probably going to need, considering this thing is otherwise going to be walled entirely by every steel type in the meta. So you probably want that move. This is very strong though, and it's definitely a good option. Like I feel like it's going to be a bit niche because it's not too many teams where it's mandatory to have a bug and poison type hitting moves, but it's definitely very strong and it's definitely worthwhile using. So, and it's pretty great to see Beedrill again. Problem is going to be sending it out at first because it's not particularly great. It's a Beedrill. You got to Mega Evolve it. Next Pokemon, Mega Caprorupt. So this strikes me as a bit more of a offensive Trick Room sweeper. The reason being is if we take a look at its stats here, it's got very high special attack, very respectable bulk, but then very low speed. And the nice thing about it is it gets Sheer Force, and it's got Fire Blast and Earth Power to capitalize on that, which is pretty great. And I do feel that if you get this thing out in the Trick Room, which you're probably going to want because it's got a lot of weaknesses like Fire Ground, so it's weak to quite a few things, a considerable number even. But in a Trick Room you will be faster than them, and I feel that it's going to get good use there. I really do. Its move pool is a little limited, which is a real shame here. There's not too many things you can do. I kind of slapped Stealth Rock on it just because it's a notable move and something that uses Stealth Rock. Not as many Pokemon seem to have it now because it's not Move Tier related. I actually remember getting Move Tiers back, but that's eating the Caprorupt's minute. It's pretty good, and I do feel that I'll try it out on a Trick Room team at some point. But outside of that, I don't feel that it's too useful. It's just a little too weak. Next Pokemon. Mega Deontay. Oh man. So if Deontay was Mega Carbink, then this is Mega Carbink. And it's pretty great. The problem with it is, definitely not its stats, which are fantastic. Problem is its limited move pool. And it actually loses something in being a Deontay that Carbink actually has an advantage and is better for here. Because it doesn't have Power Gem, which is actually a real shame. You're forced to use Ancient Power over Power Gem, and I know it's only a slight difference in power, but that actually quite bothers me, it really does. Because you could run Diamond Storm instead of it, but it's like the standard set for this, I believe, would be a Calm Mindset, because it really is fantastic for that, and special attack is so high, like it really is. If you're unresting and Calm Mind with that, it's going to be so difficult to deal with. It's just very strong. Scissor is, of course, something to instantly deal with it. But the fact that then it has very limited moves means that you're going to be hard pressed to run many things in it. Like, you could run a support set with this, because you do have Toxic and you have like rocks and screens and such, but it's a bit of a shame, really. It doesn't have Power Gem. I'm a bit disappointed by that, but nonetheless, this is still kind of great. Beware of Scissor, though. Dear God, beware of Scissor. Next up, Mega Gallade. This one is bit disappointing in all honesty. The reason being is that it's not too different from standard Gallade, and you won't play it that differently. There's nothing too remarkable about it, and the moves that you're going to slap on this are very close to the standard. So if we look at it, we have Close Combat, we have Zen Headbutt. Leaf Blade always gets a notable mention just because it's a bit of a weird move it has, but it's kind of good because it just gives you some more coverage. But then you're just stuck with standard Gallade moves, like you have Knock Off and such. You have a couple of other ones. You do have the punches, which I believe you're going to have access to again because of the move tutors. But it's just a little disappointing. There's nothing too remarkable about its stats. Like, it's bulky, but I feel like you'd be better off just with a different Mega. That, like, there's more of a dramatic change with it, really. And so it's just a bit disappointing with Gallade. And I do feel that there's going to be a problem with a particular flying type Mega evolution that this thing will encounter, but we'll get to him soon. But it's just a little disappointing. But it's still pretty good, but I don't think it's Mega worthy. I think you're better off with something else. Next we have Mega Glalie, and this is probably the most disappointing Mega for me, honestly. A lot of people got excited when they first saw this guy, but actually looking at his set, he's not that great. He's a standard Ice type and he has Refrigerate, but there's not too much that you can capitalize on it. He has Double Edge here, and notably he does have Explosion, which is going to be the strongest explosion, I believe, just possible, because it's a Refrigerate explosion. Like, that's insane. But then outside of that, you only have Earthquake, and you have a very limited move pool to work with. You do have Spikes, which I guess is kind of nice if you want to set up some hazards. But yeah, its stats are very unremarkable. Like, there's nothing fantastic here. And because it's just a pure Ice type, I feel that this thing is going to suffer all the problems that Glalie did before. And because of that, I don't feel it's going to see much usage. Like, the problem is that if it is your Mega slot, it does nothing remarkable about it. Like, yes, he looks like Pac-Man with a beard, but there's nothing special about that. There really isn't. And I'm really just disappointed with this Mega, and I'm probably not going to use him, so bit of a shame, really. Latias Mega, and I'm going to actually do the Lahi twins together. As you can see, I didn't really fill in the move pools there. Both of these are very similar to how they standard play. It's like half a Soul Dew on Latios and a Latias. Which it's considered as half a Soul Dew, which is kind of good, meaning that they may not be banned outright, as Soul Dew is, I believe, right now. But these are going to play very similar to standard Latias and Latios, just because there's nothing remarkable about them again. It's just an increase all around, and they're just like better versions of them, if you will. You will have to kind of consider if it's worth losing a life orb or a leftovers over. But these are going to be mostly the same. Like for a Latias, you're probably going to want a standard Calm Mindset, because again, it's just got more to capitalize on. And with Latios, it's just going to be the standard defensive set, just with higher special attack. Draco Meteor from this thing is going to hurt. It really is. But there's nothing too different here. They're kind of just like a slight change to the Mega. It reminds me of Mega Alakazam a bit. Nothing too remarkable, but still very powerful in their own right. Next one I am very happy with. This is the one I really want to use, and I think is really cool. Mega Lopunny. I don't think anyone expected this, but I'm really happy with this Mega. And I can see it getting some usage. The problem it does have is that you have to send out a regular Lopunny at first, which isn't great. But then when you do Mega Evolve, you get the normal fighting type, and you have quite a few moves that you can use with it. And the set that I've kind of gone for here is one that I feel could actually be used, well, not a set, but like for general ideas, substitute Focus Punch on this thing. Because if you see this thing, you're probably just going to want to try and counter it as fast as you can, and that's going to take the form of your T-Wave or a Will-O-Wisp, which means that sub is going to be ideal, and nothing's going to be able to dodge your Focus Punch, because it hits Ghost types now as well, which is great. And if you do send in a Flying type, you've got Ice Punch. So you have actually quite good coverage with Lopunny, and I really want to use this thing. I'm quite excited for this. I think it's really cool to use. It does still suffer problems like the regular Lopunny has. Like, it's not particularly bulky, although its defenses are quite high here. Its HP isn't near as high, and it's probably just not going to live hits because it doesn't resist too many types. But yeah, I'm really happy with this one, and I'm excited to use it. Now, oh god, okay, this is Mega Metagross. This is one that you're probably going to see a lot in the metagame. I believe it's going to slightly dominate the metagame because it's very, very strong. It's one of the best Megas here. There's only one better than it, I believe, which we will get to, which is quite worrying. But yeah, this is very strong. If you look at its stats, they're fantastic all around. The fact that it has Bullet Punch and Tough Claws on top of that means that it's going to be able to counter, well, just destroy quite a lot of things. Like a standard counter for Metagross would probably take the form of a Gengar. Gengar is not going to live a Bullet Punch with that much damage. It's just not possible. And an agility set on this thing is truly terrifying. Like, it really is. This has moves to capitalize on its Tough Claws boost. It does get access to some of the punches, like Thunder Punch and Ice Punch here. Hammer Armor as well, which is just really strong. This is going to be very fearsome, and you're going to have something dedicated to counter it. And honestly, you're probably going to need an Intimidate user for that. And whether it's bad or not, I'm not too sure. But I do believe this is going to be suspect tested, because this is a very, very strong, and it's very difficult to deal with. Mega Pidgeot then. This is kind of a cool one, but I'm a bit disappointed with this because there's not too many options for it. So, Mega Pidgeot, it's actually gone the special attacking route, which is kind of cool in itself. And the fact that it has no guard here means that you can use Hurricane on it and not have to worry about accuracy. And to go with that nicely, you do actually have Heat Wave here. And which, again, you don't have to worry about accuracy. So you do have like quite a bit of coverage there. The problem is it kind of dies out after that. Like, you don't really have any other kind of hidden moves. You could go for a Hidden Power if you wanted. But yeah, it dies down very fast after that. You might be able to run a Tailwind set or something on this. Might be able to run a Roost set because it's got like alright bulk. But then again, like, it's not fantastic bulk. Like, it's just kind of average and decent, not particularly great. And I feel like just in comparison to other Megas, this thing is just outclassed. It's a cool idea to have the Hurricane like that with the no guard, but I don't think it's worthy of your Mega slot. Like, if it was between this and Mega Metagross, for example, take the Metagross. Surely, take the Metagross. Okay, next up we have Mega Sableye, and this is a bit of an odd one because it looks great at first glance, but then you realize it's missing one thing that regular Sableye loves over this, and that's Prankster. You're missing it here, and it is quite damaging to Sableye because your attack hasn't gone up too much. Like, it's just painfully average attack, so you're not really well running like a physical set or that, which means that you're probably going to end up going to the standard Sableye set, which is Willow, Confuse, right? And that you could run Knockoff if you wanted, it's kind of an option, but then you just probably have Stand Recover on top of that. And this suffers from the lack of Prankster, though. It really does. Your speed is absolutely atrocious here, and this thing, it's a really damaging. Like, you think Magic Bounce is just a genuinely good ability on this thing, but it just doesn't have enough to it, I feel. And I feel like you're much better off using regular Sableye over this thing. Because because you're forced to play this standard kind of Sableye set with it. You haven't got many options outside of it. And it's just a real shame that you don't have it here. Next Pokemon, oh god. Okay, this one's gonna be suspect tested. And if it stays in OU, it will dominate the metagame. It's Mega Salamence. A lot of people have kind of raised concern over this one. And they're, in all seriousness, like, yeah, like, there should be concern raised over this. In fact, I'm even going to spend 2 minutes on this, just to explain why this is a huge deal right now. So, the fact that, if you look at its stats for a second, everything has essentially gone up. It's got respectable defenses now, and its attack is higher, its speed is higher. This is going to live a lot more hits than it usually would, and the main problem with this is that when you send out regular Salamence, you're still going to have that Intimidate off, which means that you're more than likely going to be able to set up with it if you're smart. When you then get a Dragon Dance up with this thing, you're essentially on base 180 special attack and well over 200 base attack. And then, just to round it off, you then have Aerialate, and this thing gets trash. That's a Flying type Outrage, which is a 1.8 times boosted, I believe. Because it's 1.5 and then it's a 1.33. Sorry, that's actually 1.95, just working it out there. So that's a really strong Outrage, and Flying type is generally a type that you can't really resist that well. So that's just insanely strong. And then if any counters you have to this, well, Salamence actually has a really diverse move pool. Like, you have so many options that you can run here. You can even run a special Salamence still, because your special attack is still, like, very respectable base 120. Like, you could just run a Draco on this. I even stuck Hyper Beam on this just to indicate that you could do an aerial Hyper Beam just for the laughs, and it's just ridiculously strong. This thing's going to be suspect to test it for sure. It is ridiculously strong. If it does not move to Uber, then it's going to dominate the meta. It's so strong. Like, this really is. You're going to have a dedicated answer to this thing, because it is just insane as it currently stands. And that kind of upsets me, really, because I'm someone that, just from the past, I'm really not happy with moving things to Uber. I believe that things should be tweaked and worked around rather than just outright removed. But this is a scenario where this just might happen, and there doesn't seem to be any way to avoid this. It's just too damn strong. It really is. So, oh man, Mega Salamence. Mega Sceptile, though. This one's kind of interesting. It's sort of like a niche role. It's got some interesting things on it. It's another one of those speedy grass types with high special attack, and it does have access to Leaf Storm here, and Dragon Pulse as well, considering it now got the Dragon type and you want to capitalize on that. Problem with Dragon type now, though, is there's a lot more Fairy types, definitely a lot more Fairy type Megas here that have been added, which means that it's particularly weak to those things. Very weak to Hidden Power Ice as well, because it's just an Ice in general, because it's the times for weakness, which is a bit dreadful, because if you then look at your defenses, they're not particularly great, they're kind of average. So this thing is quite frail. And its ability is also weird. Lightning Rod. I imagine that's for doubles intended for doubles, because Discharge, imagine Discharge on a Rotom paired with this thing. That's kind of good. But for singles, it's really not going to be able to use it that much unless you really predict like a Jolteon's Volt Switch or something. But if they see Skeptile, they're probably going to predict that you have this and just not go for it. Go for a Yawn or something instead. So it's a pretty niche role though. Probably won't get too much usage though. But it's still good. Next one, Mega Sharpedo. This is pretty interesting. The reason being is that when you send it out as a regular Sharpedo, you still have speed boost, which means that these average stats here, that speed is actually much higher than before. And yeah, like, this thing can actually get quite strong then. It has Strong Jaw as well, which means that it's attacking move with Crunch, and Ice Fang I believe is the only other Fang that it gets, doesn't get any of the other ones. They're both going to go up in power, which is kind of great. You probably want Protect on this just because you're going to wait a turn to get the speed boost off. It also has Destiny Bomb, which I believe is quite noticeable because this thing is still very frail. It's definitely not going to live many hits, so you probably want something like Destiny Bomb just so you can get an extra KO if this thing's like near death. In all honesty though, I think that this thing is just a little too frail to warrant too much usage, and I think that there's just stronger things. Like if you compare that attack stat, Mega Metagross say has higher attack, but it's also got formidable defense and just going to last longer. So it's an interesting idea, but I don't think it's going to get too much usage. Something that will get a lot of usage though, Mega Slowbro. Oh my god. Okay, this thing is probably going to dominate the meta quite a bit as well, I feel. And I might spend a bit longer on this as well, just to kind of explain my reasoning for that. So its ability as well also just helps there. Shell Armor, it can't be critical hit, which means there's no alternate way of dealing with this thing. Its defense is so high. Look at that, base 180. Paired with its HP, 95. Paired with special defense, 80. Special defense, I believe, is the same, but it's still very high, and special attack has gone miles up. I believe its speed is slightly lower than it was before. I'm not too sure, but this is just going to be a nightmare to deal with, because it's a very bulky Mega, and it has Slack Off, and its Slowbro is just known for just taking hits, really, and being a damage sponge. And the stat I came up for this is one that's just going to be very difficult to deal with. It's a Scald, Yawn, Calm Mind, Slack Off. Because if you just after one Calm Mind, your special attack is now remarkably high, and your special defense is also very high now. You get 2 off, and it's even stronger. You can just kind of slack off, you can get burns off them with the Scald and just hit them really hard. And with Yawn, you're then going to force them to switch. Which means that this thing is going to be really difficult to deal with. This is something that it's almost like beneficial to have something like a Mega Skeptile for this, because this is really strong, and if you don't deal with it quickly, it's going to sweep your entire team. Like, this is a very strong, and I believe that I believe that this may dominate the meta. Possibly sent to Uber, I'm not too sure. I reckon this thing will get suspect tested, because it is very, very strong. Like, I really do see this being used an awful lot. It is fantastic. But we'll have to wait and see for that. You even got a bit of a strange option here to go for a belly drum set. I've always wanted to do a physical Slowbro. I might actually go for it, because its attack stat has been boosted just a little bit, and paired with its defense as well now. It's a kind of an option, but that's kind of a gimmick. There's no excuse, that's just outright a gimmick. But yeah, this thing is dangerous, this thing's really strong. Expect to see it, do have something for it, because it is very, very dangerous. Something that's not so dangerous though, unfortunately, is Mega Steelix here. This does have a niche role though, and the role I came up for this is actually on a Sandstorm Trick Room team, because it kind of excels there. It's got Sand Force, it's got very low speed, its attack is now very respectable for Steelix, its defense is still sky high, but you can use Gyro Ball and Earthquake on it and just cause a lot of damage. Tragically after that, you don't have too many options for moves. You have Thunder Fang, you do have Ice Fang, you do actually have Fire Fang as well, so you do have the Fangs, I guess, as your other coverage moves. Aqua Tail as well, which is a bit weird. You can also go for Stout Rock and Toxics and stuff like that if you want. Personally, I do believe this is just a bit outclassed by Mega Aggron, and I'd probably use that over it. I do believe Mega Aggron's ability of Filter and just being a pure Steel type just gives itself a bit more of an advantage over Steelix here, because you're still going to have trouble from the likes of just specially based Water type moves and specially based Ground. So it's a bit of a shame that it's just so similar to Mega Aggron, because otherwise this would really shine, I feel. But it still has a niche role in those Sandstorm Trick Room teams, so there is a purpose for it if you have the team. Coming up to the final few now, we've got Mega Swampert. Swampert got buff indeed, dear god. This thing's actually really good. Its stats are like formidable all around. It's got great defenses on the top of its HP, and its attack's really high. And the fact that it has Swift Swim as well means that this can cause some serious damage. So the set I kind of came up for this is, well, just like kind of a mock set really. But just Rain Dance and Power Up Punch is probably the move that you're going to want to boost your stats. You don't really have any other options outside of it. You do have Curse, but considering you have Swift Swim, that's a bit counterproductive. So if you were to Power Punch and just like then prioritize on that Swift Swim, Aqua Tails are really going to hurt, and this thing is very strong. Gets stabbed in the Earthquake then as well, and yeah, it's quite formidable. Like, this is actually really strong, and I do believe this is going to encourage having more grass types on teams, because it's a type that's noticeably lacking in the meta. I'm not sure, well, I kind of have an idea why, because there's so many steel types in that. But yeah, I do believe this is going to encourage just a bit more grass type usage, because yeah, this is actually really good, and this is definitely viable. Like, this is something you should really consider for a Mega. I definitely recommend it. The last tree, I know nothing about Ubers myself, but I thought I'd just have a look at the new Primal forms and Mega Rayquaza. I feel sorry for Ubers, because this thing has base 180 attack. It has Sword Stance, it also has Dragon Dance, I believe. It has Extreme Speed. Bloody hell, that's strong. That's really strong. It also has Delta Stream on top of that. Strong Winds Weather Effect. Oh my god. Yeah, I feel sorry for everyone in Ubers, I really do. Because you've got to put up with this thing now. And I really feel your pain. I really do. The Primals then are kind of cool because you've then got those stronger weather effects. And also, if these we don't know yet if these actually take up an item to activate their primal forms, but if they don't, it means you can run Choice Scarf sets on these things, which is going to be really strong, because if you look at these stats here, base 160 special attack, that's a really strong water spout for a Choice Scarf Kyogre, like, it really is. And that's something you're going to have to fear. And because it's a primal form as well, then you can still have your Mega Rayquaza, which means that, oh god, Ubers is in for a lot of pain. It really is. Groudon can do some of the similar effect with Eruption here. It's also kind of nice that he has actual fire type. Well, fire typing now, because he can capitalize on his weather effect. He's just ground before, it didn't really match up. He just lost to Kyogre in every confrontation. But it's kind of cool that then the weather effects actually cancel like types. Like, it's something new. It's something I'm sure will shake up Ubers quite a bit. But I know nothing about that. I just feel your pain, because you've got to deal with this guy. And that must be terrible. So that's going to be it for this near a minute on every Mega Evolution. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It's 5 days away, so I just thought I'd give my thoughts. It's also quite late at night. So I kind of had to put myself under time constraints, so this is the best way to do it, and it keeps kind of the format down, because I could probably go on for like an hour or two just going through these more, but this is just some first impressions on it, and starting from next week I'm going to be trying to display one of the new Megas every week. That's going to be my goal. I know there hasn't been a lot of Showdown Sunday as of late, but I'm kind of excited for how the meta of the game is really going to be shaken up next week, so I will be doing my best to bring content. I've just been doing college work again, it bogs me down at times. Definitely over Christmas we'll be able to cover quite a lot of ground, so thank you so much for watching anyhow. I hope you enjoyed the music from Smash Wii U as well. The soundtrack's finally starting to leak, and it's absolutely beautiful, so I thought I'd stick up some tracks. Hopefully Nintendo doesn't crack down on my ass for doing that. I will see you all next time.